Have you ever pulled into a motel late at night, driven by exhaustion, only to realize the moment you turned off your engine that you've made a terrible life-threatening mistake? In the outskirts of St. Augustine, Florida, there are places where the neon lights don't represent a welcome rest, but act as a lure for the desperate and the predatory. This isn't a story about ghosts or ancient legends. It's about a grand establishment that fell from grace, transforming from a high-end destination into a decaying, dangerous maze where the locks on the doors are more of a suggestion than a guarantee of safety. Today, the air here doesn't smell of ocean salt, but of stale smoke, rot, and the lingering scent of fear that stays trapped in the tattered carpets of rooms that have seen things no human should ever witness. The history of this place is a slow-motion car crash, a decades-long descent from the pinnacle of Florida hospitality to the absolute bottom of human desperation. In its prime, the lobby was a place of polished brass and mahogany, where travelers from across the country would gather to plan their historical tours of the nation's oldest city. But as the surrounding neighborhood succumbed to the rot of poverty and crime, the hotel's soul began to wither, replaced by a cold, transactional darkness that prioritizes profit over the lives of its guests. The grand entrance, once bright and welcoming, is now a dimly lit portal guarded by cracked concrete, and the shattered remains of what used to be decorative planters now serving as ashtrays for the lost souls who haunt the perimeter. As you step into the room, the first thing that hits you is the suffocating weight of the air, a mixture of industrial-strength bleach and something much more organic and foul. The furniture is scarred with cigarette burns and deep gouges, telling the silent stories of violent outbursts and desperate struggles that the management would rather you did know about. The walls are thin, painted over so many times that the layers of cheap latex seem to be the only thing holding the structure together, yet they offer no protection from the sounds of the corridor. You can hear the heavy, irregular breathing of someone standing just outside your door, and the metallic click of a lighter that signals a long night of watching and waiting is just beginning. The bed itself is a landscape of neglect, covered in a thin, scratchy polyester spread that feels like it hasn't seen a washing machine since the previous decade. Beneath that top layer, the sheets are a sickly shade of gray, worn so thin in the center that you can feel the springs of the mattress poking through like the ribs of a starving animal. There is a deep, instinctive revulsion that comes from knowing you are lying exactly where hundreds of other desperate people have sought refuge, leaving behind their sweat, their blood, and their failures. You don't want to touch anything, yet you have no choice but to sit and wait, staring at the door and wondering if the deadbolt is strong enough to withstand a determined shoulder. Outside the window, the scenery is a nightmare of urban decay, where the flickering streetlights reveal a parking lot filled with cars that look like they have moved in years. Shadows flit between the vehicles, voices rise and fall in heated whispered arguments over things you don't want to understand, and the occasional flash of a blade or a needle is enough to make you pull the heavy grease-stained drapes shut for good. But closing the curtains doesn't stop the noise, it only amplifies the auditory horror of the night, as every car door slamming or distant siren sounds like it's headed straight for your room. You are trapped in a concrete box surrounded by a world that views you as nothing more than a potential score, a temporary visitor in a permanent hellscape. The bathroom is no sanctuary, with its cracked tiles and a shower curtain made of stiff, mold-encrusted plastic that clings to your skin like a cold, wet shroud. The water that comes out of the rusted tap is lukewarm and smells faintly of sulfur, a reminder that the infrastructure of this building is failing as fast as its reputation. There are no luxury toiletries here, only a single bar of harshly heavy soap wrapped in paper that was printed during a different presidential administration. You catch a glimpse of yourself in the cracked mirror and see the reflection of a person who is starting to realize the true cost of a cheap room, as the paranoia begins to set in and every shadow in the corner starts to look like a lurking intruder. As the clock ticks past midnight, the vibe of the motel shifts from merely depressing to actively hostile, as the nocturnal residents begin their daily routines of chaos and survival. You hear the sound of a heavy object being dragged across the floor in the room above, followed by a series of sharp rhythmic thuds that make the ceiling fan wobble precariously. On the other side of the wall, a television is blaring at full volume, a desperate attempt to drown out the sounds of an argument that is rapidly spiraling toward physical violence. You find yourself gripping the edge of the nightstand, your knuckles white as you realize that there is no one coming to help you. The front desk is empty and the police are likely tired of responding to this address. Suddenly it happens, the sound you've been dreading since you first checked in, a slow, deliberate knock on your door, followed by a voice that sounds far too friendly for 3 o'clock in the morning. "Hey, you got a light, or maybe a few bucks for the vending machine?" the voice asks, but the handle of the door is already being turned, testing the strength of the latch. You hold your breath, your heart hammering against your ribs like a trapped bird, as you realize that this is the moment where the bargain you thought you found turns into a fight-or-flight situation. The silence that follows is even worse than the knock, as you know the person is still standing there staring at the wood, deciding whether to move on or to force their way in. This is the psychological toll of the St. Augustine danger zone, where the constant state of high alert burns through your nervous system and leaves you feeling hollow and exposed. You aren't just worried about your luggage or your wallet. You are worried about the fundamental violation of your space by someone who has no respect for the law or human life. The tattered, sun-bleached fabric of the armchair in the corner seems to mock you, a relic of a time when people could sit and relax without fear of a stray bullet or a home invasion. In this room, every object is a weapon or a hiding place, and the only comfort you can find is in the fact that the sun will eventually rise, provided you can survive the next few hours. The lighting in the room is a harsh, flickering fluorescent glow that makes everything look jaundiced and sickly, casting long distorted shadows that dance across the peeling wallpaper. You try to turn it off to hide, but the darkness is even more terrifying, as it allows your imagination to fill in the gaps with the worst possible scenarios. You find yourself checking the window every few minutes, peeking through a tiny gap in the heavy dust-choked curtains to see if anyone is tampering with your car. The sight of a figure leaning against your hood is enough to send a jolt of pure adrenaline through your veins, a reminder that you are never truly alone in this predatory environment. The carpet under your feet is a biohazard of unknown proportions, a sticky matted mess of synthetic fibers that have absorbed years of spills, smoke, and things far worse. You keep your shoes on, afraid to let your skin touch the floor. As you pace the small area between the bed and the door like a caged animal, there is a sense of profound isolation here, despite being surrounded by dozens of other people, because you know that in this place everyone is out for themselves. The social contract has been revoked, replaced by the law of the jungle, where the weak are targeted and the unwary are exploited until there is nothing left. As the night progresses, you begin to notice the smaller details of the room's decay, like the way the cheap, faded lace on the one decorative pillow is falling apart into a million tiny threads. It's a perfect metaphor for the motel itself, a desperate attempt to maintain a facade of normalcy that is being shredded by the reality of its environment. You find a discarded needle cap under the nightstand and a series of strange, dark stains on the underside of the desk, evidence of the illicit activities that fund the continued existence of this place. The management doesn't care about the stains or the needles. They only care that the room is occupied and that the money is paid up front. The smell of the room seems to change as the hours drag on, the scent of old grease and cold air being replaced by the sharp, chemical temps of something being cooked in a nearby unit. It's a smell that signals danger, the kind of activity that brings unwanted attention from the wrong kind of people and increases the risk of a violent confrontation or a fire. You consider leaving, throwing your bags in the car and driving until you find a well-lit gas station. But the thought of walking through that dark, unsecured parking lot is even more terrifying than staying inside. You are caught between a rock and a hard place, a prisoner of your own decision to save a few dollars at the expense of your safety. You find yourself staring at the phone on the nightstand, its grimy, tangled cord, a symbol of a communication system that hasn't worked in years, cutting you off from the outside world. There is no one to call, no one to complain to, and no one to ensure that the rules of a civilized society are being followed within these walls. You are in a black hole of accountability, a place where the normal rules of business and safety don't apply, and where the only law is the one enforced by the strongest person in the room. The silence of the phone is deafening, a reminder that in this concrete trap, you are truly and utterly on your own. The walls of the motel seem to pulse with the accumulated energy of 1,000 bad nights, a heavy, vibrating tension that makes your skin crawl and your hair stand on end. You can hear the sirens in the distance, a constant soundtrack to the life of the city, but they never seem to get close enough to make a difference in this particular block. It's as if the police have drawn a line around this area and decided to let it burn, only intervening when the violence spills out into the nicer parts of St. Augustine. You are on the wrong side of that line, a temporary resident of a forgotten zone where the only thing that matters is surviving until the checkout time. Every time you hear a car pull into the lot, your heart skips a beat, as you wait to see if the engine stays running or if the doors open to reveal more trouble. The sound of a heavy bass thumping from a nearby vehicle vibrates through the floorboards, a low-frequency assault that prevents you from even closing your eyes for a moment. You find yourself wondering how many people have died in this very room, and whether the stiff, unwashed fabric of the curtains has witnessed a crime that went unsolved. The history of a place like this is written in the shadows and the stains, a secret record of human suffering that is hidden behind a cheap peeling door. The motel culture of the Florida coast is a dark underworld of its own, a network of these decaying structures that serve as the last stop for those who have nowhere else to go. You see them in the morning, the long-term residents with their plastic bags and their hollowed-out eyes, moving through the parking lot like specters of a life they used to lead. They are the permanent occupants of this hellscape, people who have become so accustomed to the danger and the filth that they no longer see it for what it is. To them, the tattered polyester blankets and the cracked tiles are home, but to you, they are a terrifying reminder of how easily a person can slip through the cracks. You find a small, hidden compartment in the back of the closet. It's rough, unfinished wood hiding a stash of someone's forgotten life, a single shoe, a torn photograph, and a scrap of denim fabric. It's a heartbreaking sight, a reminder that the people who pass through here aren't just statistics, but individuals with families, histories, and dreams that were eventually consumed by the darkness. You wonder what happened to the person who owned these things, and whether they ever made it out of the trap, or if they became just another part of the motel's grim architecture. The closet feels like a tomb, a cold, dark space where the remnants of the lost are stored away and forgotten. As the pre-dawn light begins to gray the horizon, the motel takes on an even more surreal and ghastly appearance. The transition from darkness to light revealing the full extent of the horror. The parking lot is littered with broken glass, discarded wrappers, and the general detritus of a night spent in the shadows, and the building itself looks like a rotting tooth in the mouth of the city. The faded, sun-damaged awnings flap uselessly in the morning breeze, looking like the wings of a dying bird, and the pool in the center of the complex is a stagnant, green pit of despair. You realize that the bargain you thought you were getting was actually a front-row seat to the collapse of a community. The psychological impact of a night like this stays with you long after you've VA checked out and driven 100 miles away. A lingering sense of vulnerability that makes you question your safety. You find yourself checking the locks on your own home with a new intensity, and the sound of a knock at your door can send a jolt of anxiety through your system for weeks to come. It's a trauma that is hard to explain to those who haven't experienced it, a visceral understanding of what it feels like to be a target. The cheap, scratchy fabrics and the smell of the motel become a sensory trigger, a memory of a time when you were truly afraid. St. Augustine is a city of two faces, the bright historical facade that the tourists see, and the dark, dangerous reality that exists just a few blocks away in the shadows of the decaying motels. The contrast is jarring, a reminder that even in a place with so much history and beauty, the rot of the modern age can take hold and turn a paradise into a purgatory. The local government tries to hide these areas, to push them further into the periphery, but the danger remains, a constant threat to those who don't know the territory. It is a battle for the soul of the city, a struggle between the preservation of the past and the reality of a dangerous present. You eventually gather your things, your movements quick and efficient as you prepare to make a run for the car and put this nightmare behind you once and for all. You don't bother to check the room one last time, you just want to be gone, to leave the greasy curtains and the stained sheets to the next unfortunate soul who decides to save a buck. As you walk through the parking lot, the morning air is cold and damp, and you can feel the eyes of the remaining residents on you, watching to see if you have anything worth taking. You don't look back, you just focus on the car, the key in your hand, and the promise of a highway far away. The engine roars to life, a beautiful mechanical sound that means freedom and safety. And you do want to breathe a sigh of relief until you are several miles away and back on the main road. The sun is finally up, but it doesn't feel warm. It feels like a cold, clinical light that exposes the truth of what you just went through. You find yourself stopping at the first clean, well-lit coffee shop you see, just to sit in a place where the people are normal and the environment isn't trying to kill you. The transition back to civilization is jarring, a reminder of how quickly the world can change when you step into the wrong neighborhood. Looking back, the experience was a masterclass in the reality of urban danger, a reminder that the most terrifying things in life aren't ghosts, but the threats you can see and touch. It says a story of survival in a world that has become increasingly hostile to those who are uncareful, and a warning to anyone who thinks that price is the most important factor. The motels of the St. Augustine danger zone are a permanent part of the landscape, a dark monument to the failure of safety and the persistence of predatory crime. They are the real haunted houses of Florida, where the predators are still alive and they are looking for their next victim among the tired. The coarse, industrial-grade towels you used that morning felt like sandpaper against your skin, a final insult from a place that has no interest in your comfort or well-being. Even the soap, with its chemical scent and lack of lather, felt like a warning that you were an outsider in a world that had its own set of rules. Everything about the room was designed to be disposable, from the furniture to the people who stayed there, a cynical business model that relies on a never-ending stream of desperate travelers. You realize that you are just a number on a ledger, a temporary source of income in a machine that is fueled by human misery. As you drive through the historic district of St. Augustine, the contrast is almost impossible to reconcile. With the beautiful architecture and the happy tourists seeming like a world away, you see the horse-drawn carriages and the polished stone walls of the old fort. And you wonder how many people realize that just a few minutes away, a different kind of history is being made. It's a city of secrets, some of them ancient and some of them brand new, but all of them hidden behind a curtain of respectability that is thinner than the cheap polyester drapes in your motel room. The darkness is always there, waiting just off the main path, ready to swallow anyone who takes a wrong turn. The memory of the knock on the door still haunts you, a rhythmic, persistent sound that seems to echo in your mind whenever you are in a quiet room. It's a reminder that safety is an illusion, a fragile construct that can be shattered by a single person with a bad intention and a desperate need. You've learned to value your security more than your money, and to trust your instincts when they tell you that a place is dangerous no matter the price. The concrete trap was a hard lesson to learn, but it's one that will stay with you forever, a permanent part of your personal history that you will never be able to fully erase. The stories of the people who live in those motels are ones that will never be told in the history books, but they are just as much a part of St. Augustine as the Spanish explorers. They are the modern-day castaways, stranded on an island of concrete and asphalt, living a life of quiet desperation and constant fear. Their world is one of stained fabrics, broken glass, and the smell of rot, a reality that most people would rather ignore than confront. But for one night, you were a part of that world, a witness to the darkness that exists in the gaps of our society, and it's a vision that you will carry with you. This is the true face of the Florida danger zone, a place where the past and the present collide in a violent way, and where the only thing that matters is making it to the next day. It's a warning to the unwary, a challenge to the brave, and a grim reality for the thousands of people who call these motels home every single day. If you ever find yourself in St. Augustine, remember the story of the concrete trap, and think twice before you pull into that neon-lit parking lot in the middle of the night. The shadows are waiting, and they don't care about your plans or your dreams. They only care about what you have in your pockets and how easily they can take it. Did you know about this dangerous side of St. Augustine? Or have you ever accidentally stayed in a place that made you fear for your life the moment you walked in? We want to hear your most terrifying travel stories in the comments below, especially if you've encountered one of these traps yourself and how you managed to get out safely. If you found this deep dive into the darker, grittier side of Florida travel interesting, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel to support our work. Your support helps us bring these stories to light and hopefully keeps others safe on their own journeys. So thank you for watching, and remember, stay alert, stay informed, and always trust your gut.